Hello, and welcome back. Did you even leave? Ska Studios, now known as Devoured Studios, just released a 10-minute gameplay video for Salt and Sacrifice a few days ago, so you know we're going to analyze the heck out of it. There were a lot of reveals throughout those 10 minutes, so I hope you brought some popcorn. This is probably going to be a bit longer than last time. Let's dive in, shall we? Alright, so the footage begins, and it appears that we're going to get a longer look at Pardner's Vale this time around. There's what appears to be an item chest for all our extra supplies, the level up obelisk is probably right up that way there, and hey, there's even a treasure chest. Firebombs! They're gonna show firebombs! So yeah, aside from that, we also get a glimpse of the menu. Nothing too crazy going on here. We also get some footage of us breaking our ankles. Beautiful. And it is absolutely confirmed that we can pet the cat. Thank God. But you didn't come here for the funnies. You came here to prepare for the hunt. So with that in mind, I hope you're ready because a lot has changed. Let's start off with something simple. As you can see, we have both gained and lost several slots. We now have an amulet slot, but we've lost 2 ring slots and the charm slot. Presumably, the amulets will act like the charms do, but we'll need to wait to confirm that. The usual 4 armor slots are still here, as are the 10 hotbar inventory items, but you'll notice that the weapon layout is a bit different. From what I can tell, it appears as if you'll have a primary weapon and a ranged weapon for a loadout. And that's it. This actually carries some pretty interesting implications, because it means that this sword and board combo is actually a singular weapon, as are all the other starter weapons that we saw in the last video. No longer will we be swapping out shields in hopes of having just enough elemental defense to push through. If your weapon of choice doesn't come with a shield, that's it. That's not to say that you won't be able to block, and we don't yet know if a weapon with a shield will have an advantage in blocking, or if all weapons will have similar blocking defenses, but it's definitely worth noting. As for the ranged weapon slot, this is also an interesting way of doing things. First off, the weapon I thought was a poleaxe last video is, in fact, throwing axes, which is way cooler, if I'm being honest. Also, the ammunition that every class starts with applies to every ranged weapon. So whether you have a throwing axe or a bow equipped in your ranged weapon slot, the ammunition that you have equipped will still apply, which means no more collecting bolts, arrows, and bullets for that ranged build you've been making. Just buy generalized ammo and you're all set. Editor's note, after going back through the last video's footage, I just realized this means that spells cast with the wand are going to use ammunition, or at least that's heavily implied. Whether or not this wand only casts a single spell, or it could be assigned a multitude of spells that use particular amounts of ammunition, I have no idea. But I did want to point out that this bad boy is in the ranged weapon slot, so yeah, being a magic user this time around is going to be wild. Oh, and there's that dagger, still chilling out in the equipment screen. This definitely means that we'll get to switch up our dagger at some point, but what exactly that means for our character is still unknown. My bet is on some sort of special ability that occurs when we kill a boss, like 25% more salt or better loot drops, but time will tell. And yes, I said loot drops. We'll get to that in a bit. Aside from all this, we've got some stats to look at. Physical defense seems to have replaced bladed and strike defense, which simplifies things, but frost damage is also back. Also, if I had to hazard a guess, I would assume that lightning and holy damage have been combined into a new light damage, and arcane damage has been renamed dark damage. We also see that poise is still present in the game when the player quickly removes his gloves, it's just not represented on the main stat screen. And after removing said gloves, the player does a few rolls to demonstrate his carry weight, which is a nice and seamless transition into... First off, carry weight. It would appear that the old 25, 50, 75% rule applies to all our roll speeds once again. Some quick math shows that with all his armor on, the player's equip load is at about 79%, and when he takes off his gloves, it drops him down to 66%. And as we can see, his roll speed changes accordingly. Moving right along, let's zoom in on the HUD here. Red is health, green is stamina. If I had to guess, I would say that the orange is your focus, and it operates completely differently than what we're used to. Rather than simply having it on hand all the time, it acts on a building meter. If you attack an enemy, your focus goes up. If you don't attack anything for a long period of time, your focus begins to drop. In Salt and Sanctuary, focus was used to cast spells and prayers, and this still might be the case in Salt and Sacrifice. However, from the gameplay that we've seen so far, we can only confirm that the focus bar is used for special abilities. For example, the player in the gameplay demo has a special ability that increases their damage by about 10%. They're able to cast this ability every time they have enough focus, which is dictated by this rune lighting up in the HUD. Now, I'm not sure if this ability is set to the sword and shield, or if it's an ability that is found through some other means in the world, but I do know that it is using up the orange bar. if this is indeed the focus bar, magic builds are certainly going to get very interesting very quickly, as pouring points into focus would allow a larger pool to pull from, and that's not even considering what using a mana pot would do. Also on the HUD, we have this blue portion of the health bar. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but I have made the correlation that this circle down here is somehow responsible for the blue portion, considering that in later footage we see that the circle is now white, and the health bar is completely normal. This indicates to me that there might be some Demon Souls-esque mechanics at play, where you lose a portion of your health bar whenever you are in soul form, quote unquote. Pure speculation, as always, but there's definitely something going on here. Moving along to some more easily understood mechanics, sprinting is now a thing, so that's cool. Oh, wounds appear to have been removed from the game as well. So there's that. Also a familiar face, we have these symbols down here. One is our upgrade currency, which may or may not be salt this time around. The other is our money, which comes in the form of silver coins. And this little bar down here is our level up bar, which notifies you when you've got enough points to level up, just like it did in Salt Sanctuary. Poise breaking is still a thing, so make sure you keep your eye on your stamina bar, and traps are still around as well, but seem to have gotten a bit sneakier, as I can't seem to find any sort of trigger or tripwire that activates it. Guess we'll just have to keep our eyes open. That's about all the similar mechanics though. Time for some new ones. We've got the grappling hook, which operates pretty much exactly the way we thought it did. Get close to a sparkling node and you'll have the option to swing across the screen. Seems like a good time to me. And we've also got a new crafting mechanic. As you can see, items you find around the map can be made into new items on the fly, such as health potions and ammunition. This crafting animation can be cancelled out of, and it seems like you can activate your crafting with the touch of a button. No poking through inventories or menus required. But how do we get these new crafting items? Well, we'll have to find them. But first, we'll have to get there. Unfortunately, we still haven't had too much elaboration on how the portal really works. Just like before, the player already has all the runes on hand. However, it's become clear that this NPC over here gave the player the proper rune combination that allowed them to get to Ashbourne Village. Once the player has this rune combination, they can instantly travel to that location. But that's not the only footage we see of the runes. Later on, while obtaining a quest, the player is also taught a sequence of runes. Considering the tabs we saw while entering the portal, one has to wonder if giving the portal this sequence of runes will let us hunt bosses again, even after we've defeated them. In my humble opinion, I think this is exactly what's going to happen, but I'll explain why later on. First, we need to use the portal so we can properly explore. When we teleport in, we can see that we spawn in on this summoning circle here. Something tells me there's only one per world, so don't lose it. Also, in combination with the summoning circle, there are these obelisks found throughout the map. These stones probably act as respawn points, like sanctuaries from SNS, so make sure you grab them when you see them. Also new to Salt and Sacrifice are these gathering points. We see the player gather multiple types of materials, such as these berries and these minerals over here. These items are sprinkled throughout the map, and something tells me that these items will either be brought back to base for upgrading our equipment, or, as shown by the crafting system, used to quickly create useful items. It should be noted that any extra items that you grab look as if they're going back to the item box back at Partner's Vale, so don't be afraid to over-collect things. Also found throughout the world are random mages. Judging by the footage, there is likely more than one mage in each world, and you get to decide whether or not you want to pursue them. It's also shown that, if we're clever, we can utilize the monsters around the map to help us fight the mage and its minions. Having some trailing monsters behind you might actually come in handy for some of the harder bosses. Definitely worth noting. Also worth mentioning, the maps appear to be enormous, with lots of verticality involved, so be prepared to search every nook and cranny. While searching, it looks like we might run into mini-bosses as well. This antler right here is definitely not a mage, and it doesn't appear as if you have to hunt him in any way, but you're locked into fighting him with fog walls once you find him. This fight here is a great example of all the new techniques and mechanics at our disposal, which makes me really excited to... As far as new weapons and spells go, there wasn't a whole lot shown during the footage. However, we did get confirmation that great hammers are still a thing, and we even saw a new magical spell. This one appears to be some form of magic missile, so that's pretty neat. Segue. That's right, quests are a thing now. When we come across random NPCs, corpses? I don't know. It looks like they'll give us a mission. This mission has a lot of moving parts, so let's go through it all real quick. We can see here that the mission for this mage lists his name, his location, the difficulty rating, and some lore. It also appears as if we have to complete a side quest before we can actually find the mage. I'm assuming that Hazeburnt is a minion type of some sort, and investigating their corpses will eventually lead us to the mage himself. Also, look what we have here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have loot drop chances. As anyone who plays Monster Hunter knows, this implies that we will be able to hunt these mages more than once, attempting to get a specific material again and again. Item find and the luck stat will more than likely help us with this one. Also, remember when I said I would explain something about the runes later? Judging by the fact that this NPC gave us a rune phrase, it is my guess that by plugging these runes into the portal, we can repeat this boss fight over and over again to our heart's content. This, in combination with the loot drop percentages, really solidifies that theory. This also brings up the question of whether or not players who have beaten the game before can plug in runes without actually having unlocked the rune phrases. If that's the case, speedrunning this game is going to get really weird really fast. The footage actually revealed the item that we'll be using to summon in fellow players. This golden candle can be used to search for comrades, and if I had to guess, the candle snuffer is likely just like the sellsword bell, where you can dismiss your partner if they're causing too much of a fuss. There is this item called the Guiltless Shard, but I have no idea what it does or what it's for, so we'll hold off on analysis of that for now. When the player uses the candle, we see it searching for an ally, then disappears when it finds someone. Hard to say whether this is using a password system akin to Dark Souls 3, or just a soapstone system where your floating candle appears in another player's world so they can choose to jump in. Whatever the case, it looks pretty instantaneous, which is always good to see. And what co-op adventure would be complete without emotes? Here we see a nice little sampling of some of the nonsense we'll be getting into with our friends. We have point, wave, whistle, sit, shrug, and handshake. I really like that they've included dual emotes. Really amplifies your teamwork. And judging by the next segment, we'll need that teamwork. As shown in the footage, once we have the location of a mage, we begin to give chase. Keep in mind that this mage here is a tier 1 difficulty rating, so this is presumably one of the easier mages to fight. We can see here that he summons minions all while still attacking the player, then teleports away, forcing the players to continue chasing him. While running through the area, we can see that there's a sort of magic effect to indicate which direction the mage is currently running in. This happens multiple times in different intensities. The mage continues to run, while also continuing to summon minions and fight back occasionally, but eventually the players back him into a corner. It appears as if the mage will continue to run until they get to about 50% health. After this, they set up fog walls, and you're locked into the fight. We can see that the regular minions are also attempting to fight the boss as well, keyword attempting, which will probably create some very interesting strategies for the more adventurous players. Upon defeating him, we see that the boss's health begins to regenerate to at least 25%, but the player is allowed to use a knife attack. I wonder if some of the more difficult bosses will utilize this more effectively. This is a tier 1 boss, so it would make sense that the more advanced bosses are going to complicate the matter, possibly attempting to keep the players away while they continue to regenerate. In any case, the boss eventually dies, mission loot is given to the players, and the mage also drops some random loot. We see the player pick up a few items, and he had the opportunity to perform a use action on the mage's final form, but he chose not to do so. What that would have done, we don't know for now, but the poor guy keels over anyway. With that, we see our seamless transition out of co-op, and the footage ends. Like always, the footage brings us more questions than answers, but at least we were able to nail down a few of our theories and dismiss a few others. Let me know in the comments down below if you noticed something I didn't. I'm sure there's a few things I overlooked. As always, feel free to subscribe, like the video, or ring the bell to make sure that you don't miss any future analysis of upcoming Salt and Sacrifice footage. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all soon. Glow brightly, Saltborn.